Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about the 15 different types of clutter that you may have in your life, and this video isn't really designed to serve as an exhaustive list of like all the things that you need to declutter in your life, but it is to give you some inspiration of ideas where you might have residual clutter in your life, and hopefully it inspires you to try to tackle one or more of the categories that I share with you today. Before we get started though, my name is Ashlynne and I make videos on this channel twice a week about minimalism and intentional living, so if you haven't subscribed yet, definitely be sure to do so below. But with no further ado, let's go ahead and talk about those 15 different types of clutter. So the first type of clutter is physical clutter, and this is probably the area that most often comes to mind when we hear the word clutter, and it's just the physical things around us, little knickknacks and doodads and whatever the other words are to describe, just the things that are cluttering up our space. What is clutter to you might not be clutter to someone else, but it really is just the superfluous things in your life that are distracting you from what is truly useful to you. Next up is aspirational clutter, and this has to do with who you are in your head. And I think there are a lot of us who are maybe one type of person in our heads, or we enjoy doing something in our heads, but maybe that doesn't necessarily, reflect our physical reality. So say I, in my head, think that I love yoga and I have all of this great yoga gear and my yoga mat and whatever other little, things that go along with it, but maybe I have been to yoga once and never actually use it. That's aspirational clutter. It has to do with who you think you are in your head, or who you want to be, but maybe it isn't reflective of who you are now. So your two options with this are to take action and make your aspirations reality, sign up for yoga classes, whatever. Or just realize that maybe this was, a goal that you had, but maybe it isn't as important to you now as it once was, and then you can just feel free to let go of that clutter. Next up is mental clutter, and this has a lot to do with the negative or just destructive emotions, attitudes, things like that we hold on to. A lot of times this is an extremely personal one, and it's going to vary a lot just depending on who you are as a person and what your outlook on life is. But if you have things cluttering up your mental space, whether that is a negative attitude or self-defeating thoughts, things like that. Number 4 is trash, and I included this as an area of clutter because I feel like a lot of us do sometimes just have things that belong in the garbage just lying around our houses. It should be pretty clear what this is, whether it is an empty storage box that you used when you moved but you still have lying around and you're not actually going to use again, or maybe you're just really bad at getting rid of the socks you have that have holes in them. Whenever you have trash lying around the house, it should be pretty obvious what it is and what to do with it. So with this one, really just take action and take the initiative to go ahead and say goodbye to it and let it go from your life. Number 5 is schedule clutter, and I feel like a lot of us have a tendency to try to pack so much into our schedules because we're either doing things we enjoy or things that we feel like we should do or have to do, and it ends up leaving us anxious and stressed and, really just feeling overwhelmed. And I don't think that we need to feel this way, so the best thing that you can do is just figure out what your top priorities are. Like, what are your supreme values in life? Is it friends? Is it family? Is it, whatever it is, figure out what is most important to you and try to fit your schedule to reflect that. Number 6 is creative clutter, and this is the creative and craft supplies and maybe musical instruments, things that allow you to express yourself creatively, but maybe you have more of than you need. With creative clutter, sometimes by trying to intentionally use less items, it can actually broaden your creativity. So I guess really just consider what you actually use and then think about how you might be able to get rid of the rest. Number 7 is digital clutter, and these are the files and pictures that just build up so quickly on our phones and our computers and, then our external hard drives, multiple, because we just have a lot of information that we end up wanting to store. And what I would say is try to have a system and plan in place when you're thinking of keeping something on your phone or your computer. Definitely go ahead and have a system of, these are the pictures I want to save, these are the files I need to save, where I'm going to save them. It will save you a lot of time, and it will help you be more intentional about what you let get stored on your computer. It can really reduce the overwhelm that you can have from the just sheer amount of digital files that you can have. Number 8 is emotional clutter, and this is the guilt, the fear, the negative emotions that are keeping you from being able to pursue a life that you love. And once again, this is highly personal. It's going to be different for everyone, but really just consider, is fear holding you back from pursuing something that you're passionate about? Figure out, like, sometimes those emotions do have a realistic place in our lives, but if it isn't serving a realistic purpose in your life, if it isn't serving a beneficial purpose in your life, consider those emotions and think about how you can, really try to conquer them, to focus on, being brave and taking action and, letting go of things that have happened to you in the past. This is so hard to do sometimes, and it can take years sometimes to be able to truly let go of certain emotions and certain memories that have really, harmfully impacted us. But at the same time, like mental clutter, this one is really, really rewarding if you're able to really concentrate on it and conquer it. Number 9 is informational clutter, and this is the old textbooks, the old, school notes, the books and documentaries and things that you're holding on to for the knowledge that they contain. But realistically, unless it's something that you plan on and do reference again and again, it's really just not worth it to hold on to it. And I would really just suggest that, like, this is an area of your life where once you've consumed and once you've learned whatever the content is, there's not really a big purpose in holding on to it. Number 10 is inherited clutter. This is things that have been passed on to you by your parents and your grandparents and any other relative or friend, basically just things that you have gotten from others that are now becoming clutter in your life. If you've received a gift that truly adds value, it's not clutter. But if the thing that you've been given isn't adding value, it definitely counts as clutter. It does count as something that's not serving a purpose in your life. And so you really should really think critically and evaluate whether or not it's worth keeping in your life. Number 11 is relational clutter. I think it's really obvious to us when we have either too many friends that aren't adding value, or we have a toxic friend that's really negatively impacting our lives. Really be conscious of this. There's nothing that can make your life miserable more than not surrounding yourself with people who really add value to your life. Number 12 is paper clutter. This one is not an emotional one, and it is probably one of the more annoying ones. It's the documents and files and mail and just all the different little pieces of paper that either we have to keep or we should get rid of. Number 13 is spiritual clutter. Once again, this is going to be really individual to you. Are there things, fears, or just things in your habits that are keeping you from really pursuing a healthy spiritual practice? There are a lot of different ways that you can take this, but I guess your spiritual life and kind of central around your beliefs is definitely an area of your life where it can get cluttered, where the different little aspects of things that you feel like you should do can get in the way of pursuing what you truly believe. Number 14 is sentimental clutter. These are the things that you have different attachments to because of the memories that are cherished with them. While you don't necessarily need to let go of all sentimental things, if they add value to your life, they aren't really cluttering it. I think there are a lot of things that we perceive sentimental value being attached to them that really maybe we don't have sentimental value with. So just kind of think about whether or not something truly is meaningful, truly is sentimental, and if it truly serves a purpose, and if it isn't, then it's clutter, and that's the kind of thing that you declutter. And number 15, the last one, is a really important one, and that's values clutter. I think there are a lot of times in our lives when we can allow secondary values to really infringe on what we would consider our primary values. Think about what you personally hold as like your primary values, your primary goals, and just think about whether or not you're allowing different secondary goals and secondary values to really just come in and infringe on those primary ones. Okay guys, well those are the 15 different types of clutter. There might be some that I missed, but I think that was a pretty exhaustive list. These are just different areas of your life where we can all just allow things that we don't value to come into our lives, to clutter our schedules and our minds and our physical spaces. And they're all areas that if we can be intentional about only bringing in and only keeping what is adding value to us, there's a huge value in that, in just the freedom and the peace that that allows. Wherever you are in your, decluttering journey, just know that, there's always more that you can do. But at the same time, even those small steps that you take have tremendous value. So wherever you are, be encouraged, be inspired that really trying to simplify your life is worthwhile. There's a huge benefit to it, and that it's worth it. Anyways guys, I think that's all I have for you today. Let me know in the comments below though if you have decluttered any of these areas of your life. If so, which ones have you decluttered? I would be really interested to hear about it. And maybe which one do you think is the most important? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to subscribe today if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.